guys, welcome back to the channel. We have another episode of Double Take going on here, where in this series I take a look at two different kits from two different manufacturers but made of the same subject matter. In this case, it's the 1980s Firebird and Trans Ams. Now this was going to be another episode of Double Take like the other ones that I've done, where you'll see two different versions of the kit, hence the name Double Take. But just like in the last episode where we did three different versions of the Millennium Falcon, because there are three of them available and it just thought it would be interesting, guess what? This is my recent acquisition, as you've seen in my last video. Latest addition to the stash, which is a 1987 Firebird GTA, which was just released by Revell. Now, looking back upon my stash, I happen to remember, wait a minute, I've got another 3rd gen Firebird around here somewhere. And I went digging, and lo and behold, look what I found. My old MPC 1/16 scale Pontiac Firebird. Now this appears to be an 83, maybe 84 model, because this is the one that basically is the Knight Rider car, as you can tell by the moon capped wheels. And I thought, wow, it'd be cool just to see how different these two kits are, specifically from MPC and Revell. We can compare the two, and it'll be a cool little episode of Double Take. Then I started thinking to myself again, hey, wait a minute. Hold on. I remember a different box. Now, mind you, I haven't seen these models in many, many years. So I started digging through my stash again. And then I found, let's just move one of these boxes out of here. Right here, another kit from Revell, the custom 1983 Firebird SE. So as soon as I found this, I thought to myself, well, hey, time to make a video, because we really got to look at all of these pieces together and see if they're the same. Is this Trans Am, is this GTA just a reissue of this old 83 kit, or is there something new and different inside of it? Maybe this one's just been retooled to add all the aero bodywork and a different nose. So we're going to take a look, and then we're going to compare the two of them to the MPC, which totally fills the screen now because I'm right up to my camera because these boxes are kind of big. So why don't we jump into it and take a look now and see exactly what we have here. This is going to be fun. Okay, guys, we have here the three bodies from all three Firebirds. The white one is the GTA from the newly released 1987 Revell kit. The silver one is the 83 Firebird from the original release of this kit. And the red one is the MPC, which is their version of this same car. Now, at a quick glance, you can see that the main difference between the MPC and the two Revells is the fact that it doesn't have T-tops. And also, looks like the rear hatch is molded as part of the body, whereas on the Revell and the, well, on the two Revells, the T-top, the hatch will actually open. So it's molded as a separate part. Now, you can see here, they all have opening doors. This is removable. This portion here on the MPC, they put an insert here that's in the shape of a door, which is kind of funny, I think. The Revell have a T-shaped reinforcement here to help sturdy the body as it's in the box, which probably saved the silver one, as the silver one's been bounced around quite a bit, as you can tell by the fact that it's a little bit warped. I'm hoping that I can straighten that out. Maybe a little bit of heat applied to that will straighten it out and be able to save this body. But yes, this has been trapped for a very long time inside of its box. But as you can see, the two Revell cars are almost identical, except for a few minor details, such as the silver car has the opening for the scoop on the fender, whereas the white one, the 87, our new release, does not. Now, did the GTA have that scoop on it? I don't know. We're going to have to do a little research and find out about that, to see if that scoop was actually part of the GTA body style. But what the GTA does have is GTA. There you go. You guys can, let's see if you guys can see that. It's got the GTA badging on it, on the fenders. Both sides are nicely engraved. The body moldings, another difference, has no body moldings on the 83 Firebird. The GTA does have the moldings for the body, molded into the rear quarter and the front fender. Now, another difference is, no, I thought they were different, but they're pretty much the same here on the rocker panels. Here and here. Just a little more visible on the silver car than it is on the white one. So basically the main difference between the two, because other than that, they seem to be identical, down to the little nubs on the roof, which, unless that's the third brake light, I'm not really sure what that's there for. Even the reinforcements are all exactly the same. These are both molded from the exact same mold. Let's see if we have any sort of trademarking or date here. Well, one interesting thing here, I don't know if you guys can see this, there are numbers here on the new release. Starts off with a 42, 7470, 0700. Now, when you look at the original release, those other numbers aren't there, but the 42 still is. Now, if we look at the engine compartment detailing, it is identical on both cars. So yeah, these two are the exact same body, molded from the exact same tooling. So if you have the original, you'll be building the Trans Am version, with the main difference being the scoop, no side moldings, and no badging on the fenders. If you have the new one, you'll be building the GTA version, which, again, you have badging, you have the side moldings, and no scoop here. Other than that, those were the slight changes, I guess, they made to the tooling in order to differentiate the two models from the regular Firebird SE to the Trans Am GTA. Other than that, they're exactly the same. So no matter which kit you have, you'll be building the same car. So, oh, no, wait, I noticed something a little bit different. They did change, if you look here on the rockers, in the back of the rocker here, there's a notch here. Now that is probably for the extended rocker panels for the newer Aero kit on the GTA. So that's another difference in the bodies. So there are a few differences in them. Not much, which would have required just a slight modification of the tooling. So you're looking at basically the same kit between the 83 SE and the 87 GTA. Now let's take a good look at the MPC. Now the MPC is another one that's been in a box for a very long time. It didn't fare as well as the Revells did, as this one. has quite a bit more damage. The A-pillar's cracked here, which is an easy fix. The body's also warped, so I'm going to have to try and fix that. But I would like to, at some point, build these. So, let's take a look at this body and see which is better. And right off the bat, I can tell you that I think the Revells have a much better representation of the car than the MPC does. As you can see, the MPC's engine compartment does have some detailing, but nowhere near as nice as the Revell. But the Revell does have all these parts molded in, such as the tank, the washer and the coolant tank, your EGR, your evap canister, and your batteries already molded into the engine compartment. Where it looks like the MPC, those are all going to be separate parts. We'll have to see when we get a little further into this whether they are separate parts or not. That's interesting. And then you can also see, let's take a look on the silver one, which is a little easier to see. The front part here of the engine compartment is a little better detailed than it is on the MPC. As you can see, the hood latch mechanism along with the cable to it, and I'm going to guess that those two are the horns, and or no, those are actually the signal lights. Oh, there they go. Those are the signal lights molded right into the body here, and you can see them here. Little, I think the molding on the Revell is quite a bit better than that on the MPC. So as far as the bodies go, I think the Revell has it over the MPC. Now the Revell also has molded in cowling and wipers. The MPC does not. Don't know if that's a separate part or not. We're going to find out. So, but as far as the proportions of the body goes, let's compare. For two cars that are supposedly the same scale, the wheelbases are just a little bit off on both between the two cars, with the MPC being a little bit longer than the Revell, but just a hair more. Now the MPC also has the signal lights molded into the body. Of course, we have our fender scoop there. Overall, it's not horrible, but the Revell does take it on the bodies, as I think it's just a much crisper molding on the Revell. The lines are cleaner, and I think the proportions are actually better than on the MPC. So there we go. So let's take a good look at a few more parts. Alright guys, now we're going to take a look at the glass on the three kits. These are the two Revells, and since they're pretty much identical, I'm not going to bother unbagging this one, so that we can just take a look at one. We're not going to go through the same parts over and over again. Now, you can see here, the rear hatch glass has the defroster lines engraved into it. We have our marker lights here and here, our T-tops, more markers here. I'm not really sure what those other ones are. Why do we have all these different markers? Don't really know. We're going to find that out as we build the thing. Here's our tail light bar with our spot right there for our flaming chicken, Pontiac engraved in the bottom, and our T-tops and our headlights. So I guess we're going to be able to position them open or closed. And of course we have our windshield. They're well, basically the only difference between the new kit and the original kit is that these are smoked and these are totally clear. Other than that, they're exactly the same. Now, as far as the MPC kit goes, you can see here we also have engraving in our rear hatch. Rear hatch is quite a bit larger than, well, not quite a bit larger, but it is a little bit larger than the other one, as it has more edging on the sides, as this goes into a frame And this one has its frame already molded into it, which you have to paint. Now we can see the windshields are almost identical. This one has a little looks like a tire had a little fun with this windshield. So we're going to have to try and polish that out, see if we can clean that up. And you can see the windshields are molded just slightly different for each kit. Now the interesting part of the MPC kit is that even though it was a solid roof as we saw, it does bring T-tops. And I took a little look through the instructions when I saw this, and there is actually a T-top frame so that you can turn this car into a T-top car, much in the same way that they did when they really built the thing, which is you're going to cut a section of the roof out and install the T-frame to reinforce the body and give the T-tops a place to sit. So it is interesting that they did give you the T-top option or the solid roof option. The MPC is the only one that does that. I thought that was a really interesting touch on their part. Okay, let's keep going on and look at some more stuff. Alright guys, now let's take a look at the tires. The first thing I want you to note about the tires is the two Revell kits, the tires are bagged. The MPC they're not, which is why we got a little bit of tire burn on our windshield. So let's get that out of the way and let's take a look at what we have here. Now, as I said, I was only going to pull out parts from the new kit when they're sufficiently different enough from the original kit that it's worth actually showing. And the tires, they are definitely way, way different. This is the MPC kit. Let's take a look at this tire here. It's a Goodyear tire. It's a GT radial. It's got, let's see, I'm not sure what that is. It's got tire size on there. I mean, it's really a nicely detailed tire. It's got pretty nice tread on it. Overall, nice, thick, beefy tire. I mean, this looks like it belongs on a car. Now, when you get to the original Revell kit, what were they thinking? Look at the size of this tire. I mean, overall, it is a nice looking tire. Got some decent tread on it. Actually looks pretty nice. Give it a little sanding. It is a Goodyear, but I mean, look at that. It's a much narrower tire and also a smaller diameter than what comes on the MPC car. Now, what was that all about? I'm not sure what the original size tire that came on these cars were, but you would figure they should be about the same size. That's very odd. Now, they're both hollow. The MPC feels like a vinyl. This feels like actual rubber. Now, the interesting part about this tire is that when we get to the new kit, now this is our new tire. Again, it's a Goodyear Eagle VR60 or VR50, VR something or another. I can't see that there. You guys can pretty much probably be able to tell me. I think it's a VR50. And take a look at the width of that tire. Again, pretty nice tread. Nice bit of all the infos on the tire. I mean, these are really nicely made tires. And hollow again. But this tire is actually a little bit wider than what comes in the MPC kit. So it just strikes me as a little odd as to why the tire on the original Revell issuing of this kit is much smaller and narrower than the tire that comes on the later kit. Oh, diameter wise are about the same, but it is much narrower. I mean, but it is a Firebird SE, so we'll have to go see if there's any more differences other than these tires between the three. But even though this is a very nice tire, I mean, it really looks the part, I think I prefer the much wider rubber for this car. One thing I do give Revell credit on is that I do appreciate the fact that they bagged it, not just on the new kit, but also on the old kit. Now mind you, this one is from the early 80s, and yet even back then they took care with the tires, whereas MPC did not. Which, if you've seen some of my other 8 builds from kits from the 80s, you know that MPC just kind of throws everything in a box. Alright, let's check out our next comparison part. Alright guys, let's take a look at the interior tubs on this. As you can see, the Revells, they are all pretty much the same, although I will have to say the engraving on the original, which is the black one, is a little cleaner than it is on the new one. As you can see, where I guess at the age of the tooling, it's gotten a little softer detailing at the end, at the back here. But overall, they both look pretty nice. They have engraved carpeting. They have the locking compartment in the rear, the locking compartments on the sides. The seats engraved nicely, carpeting, everything looks nice there. The MPC takes a slightly different approach, whereas the side panels look to be separate from these. And you only have the seat bottoms engraved in, and I guess the seat backs are a separate part. Now the engraving is much cleaner on the Revell, and you can see that they actually changed the seat patterns, where it's pleated all the way to the edge of the cushion, where here they are not. And if we take a look at the interiors, yeah, you can see that the seat backs are different also. So they made a few changes to the car for this new release. Also, the mounting points for the seats are also different. So they did make a few changes to it. Now the MPC, as I said, not quite as clean and crisp as the Revell, and it has the pedals molded in, whereas the Revell does not. So we're going to guess that the Revell has separate parts for the pedals. So I'm going to say I kind of like the Revell interior tub more than I do the MPC. So let's take a look at these two trees and see what other changes Revell may have made between these two kits. Okay, now if we look at the two trees, they're almost identical. Almost. Oh, the other engine half fell off. It's in the bag, but we're not going to worry about that. But we do notice a few changes. Now, the first change we take note of is that there is a fan here and a radiator hose here. So it looks like the earlier clutch fan system that they used on the engines must have been changed to an electric fan for 87, which I'm pretty sure that's exactly correct. Now the cylinder heads are here, they look about the same. This looks like the stiffening bar, I forget what they call that, for the that goes between the transmission and the rear differential. Engine block, transmission look about the same. Here's our timing cover and water pump. That's the same. Looks like everything else is pretty much the same, except that there is a separate radiator hose here that is not included in the new kit. As a matter of fact, this hose looks like it's this hose here. So they may have moved it from here to here and eliminated the radiator fan. Let's see what else it may have changed. The rear differentials are the same. Rear axles are the same. The exhaust is the same. There's our drive shaft. These probably part of the control arm assembly. I'm not really sure. Everything's here is the same. So they made a few changes to the car based on the more modern or the newer version of the car than when the initial kit came out, which is interesting. Let's look at see what else they may have changed between the two. Alright, let's take a look at the chassis and see what is the good, the bad, or the ugly between the three. Move that out a little bit. Here you can see the MPC chassis. We have our fuel tank, our trunk area, our spare tire well. You have our engraving for all the chassis stiffening. Not bad. It's not bad. Is it as good as the Revell? Not really. As you can see, the Revell's molding is much crisper and cleaner. And you can see here where it has the mounts for the rear suspension molded in, while this one does not. They may be molded onto the suspension parts itself. Don't know yet. You can see here the subframe is actually quite a little better detailed than the Revell. Although I don't know if the cross member is a separate part on the Revell kit yet or not. But overall, the chassis on all three look pretty good. But I got to give the edge to the Revell on that also. So now that we've done that, why don't we take a look at what's different between the two trees that comprise the chassis elements and some of the interior portions of the Revell. Looks like some of the pieces may have fallen off inside the bag, so we'll just look at what's still here. Now, the first thing you'll notice right away is the difference in the seats. This whole section of the tree is completely different than this one. So the new release, they've added these seats. And this portion here, which I'm not really sure what that is. We have our dashboard top, that didn't change. We have our pop-up headlight assemblies. We have one wiper, but they have removed this wing on the new release. Not really sure. Oh, because the new release has the wraparound wing, completely different. So they did modernize this one for the new release. Okay, that's interesting. We'll take a look at the dashboards here. This is the original dash. You can see everything's engraved nicely. All the dials are there. Oh, decently made there. This one is they actually did change the dashboard a bit. As you can see, the map pocket's different. The AC vents are different. Here, the gauges are a little bit different in the way they're laid out. So that's interesting. So they did make quite a few changes to represent the later model year. All right, let's look and see what else we can find. All right, let's take a look at our engine blocks. Since the Revells are both the same, we're just gonna take this one from the new kit and we'll compare it to the monogram. Let's give you guys a really good look at that. Okay, now as you can see, the monogram has a separate molded oil pan, which the MPC, the oil pan is a separate part, which I really like. But the monogram, the transmission is much better. I mean, look at the detail in that transmission compared to the MPC. This is really, really nice. But I do appreciate the fact that they gave you the oil pan as a separate part, because that means no seam repair, which we're going to have to do quite a bit here. Now, let's take a look at the cylinder head here. Wow, another place where the MPC is ahead of the monogram is, you can see that? You can actually see the rockers inside the cylinder head. Really nicely done. And here we have the water pump is a separate part from the timing cover. Whereas on the monogram, as we saw, I mean on the Revell, as we saw, it's all one part. So I'm gonna say that the MPC's engine is probably going to be a little more fun to build and paint. Even though the monogram, I keep calling it monogram, even though the Revell looks really, really nice. I mean, it's a really crisp mold on the Revell. Really crisp and clean. I like it. I think I'm going to have to give it to the Revell again. Even though the monogram has really nice detailing on the valve cylinder heads. And the exhaust manifolds are nicely made. I think I'm going to have to give it to the Revell again for really nice detailing. It's going to be interesting building these engines together. Alright, moving on to the next thing. Alright, since we took a look at the dashboard of the Revell already, let's take a look at the dash of the monogram, of the MPC. At some point before this video is over, I'm going to get these names straight. The MPC, I think, has a much nicer dash. I mean, you can even see the Firebird engraved into the dash there. The gauges are crisp and clear. Look at the AC vents. There's a little bit of flash to clean up. Quite a bit of flash, which is kind of odd since this was when the kit was new. But, oh, look at this. And we have a bit of a... Ooh, that's kind of ugly there. That's going to require some filling. What a shame, because it really was a nice dash, except for all the flash on it. And this recessed area here that's not supposed to be there. What a shame. They did a nice job with it. And look at the sun visors. Nicely detailed also. You can see the wrinkle in the material, the stitching going around. Nice job there. Alright, now let's take a look at the door panels. The MPC, these are really nice door panels. They are very, very nicely engraved. Really good definition on the armrests, all of the seam work, the carpeting they have engraved there. You can see the door handle, wow, this is a really nice door panel. I gotta say, I am pretty impressed with that. Now let's take a look at the Revell. Now, one interesting thing about the Revell is that the armrests are a separate part, which is always a pretty cool thing in my book. But on the MPC, they are made so nicely that it's kind of a moot point with these two kits. Now let's see if we can see it better on the black one. This is the original issue. That looks a little better. You can see the engraving is very nice. All the detailing is there. Now, I don't know if it comes with a separate handle that you can insert in there, or if that's just the way they decided to engrave it. But it looks like there's something. It looks like the handle is actually missing. Whereas you can see on the MPC, you can see that the handle is actually engraved there. So I don't know if that's a separate part. I'm hoping it is, because that would be really cool. But I think the door panels, as far as the detailing goes, I think I'm going to have to give it to the MPC on that one. And the way we were looking at the interior before, these are the rear panels, which are a separate part on the MPC, which is very cool. And now let's take a look at the differences between the new and the old Revell. Let's just pull back a little bit. Okay, now one of the major differences you can see is in the radiators. Now this is why they changed on the other sprue. They removed the fan on the newer version of the kit, whereas it was on the old version, because this one does have the electric fan that's molded with the radiator. Now I wish they had left that as a separate part, because it would have looked better, especially at this large scale, if you could have had these parts here as separate pieces, the carrier and the fan blades itself. That would have looked, I think, much better than this all molded in one piece. So that's a little disappointing. Now let's take a look at here. We have our pedals, which are not molded in like the NPC was, which I'm happy to see that, because I didn't think it looked very good on a model as large as this, that you would have the pedals. I'm gonna have to make pedals for that NPC, because there's no way I'm gonna leave that way. I'm not happy with that at all. Sway bars and control arms are the same. Manifolds are all the same. Our belt drive assembly is the same. Thought there might have been some changes there. Here go our spindle. This is going to have working steering column. Everything else seems to be pretty much exactly the same. The big changes here are in the fans, in the radiator assemblies. That's where the big changes are on this sprue. Otherwise, they're exactly the same. Okay, guys, here we go. We're looking at another one of the major differences between these kits, and between the three of them. First, the NPC brings all sorts of performance parts in it. You have side exhausts, you have a chrome fan here, you have is that a turbo? Might be a turbo there. I'm not really sure. Your chrome oil pan, all of your other bits and pieces as far as chromed items go. The Revell has your wheels, wheel backs, intake, alternator, valve covers, mirror parts. Now, the new kit has no chrome. I mean, this is what you get. And these two trees are very different. The wheels are completely different, as we have the lace wheels for the later version, and these are the turbo finned wheels that have the Black Moon covers on the earlier version, which that would be it's accountable for the fact that the two cars are 2 different years. Now, as you can see here, the wheels are different, the wheel backs are different. For the wider wheels, you can have these are much deeper than these. That would account for the wider tires. Same part here, same part here. Here go our mirrors. These are chrome, these are not. Alternator is the same here. Mirror, shifter. Here we have the buckets for the lights. And then from here on, completely different parts. This is the TPI intake assembly along with fuel rail for the newer version of the engine, while here all we have in it is an intake, and that's pretty much it. As I think these were carbureted. So there's got to be a carburetor in here somewhere. But that's a huge difference between the old kit and the new kit. I mean, major difference. That's very interesting. Now, the NPC kit, as you can see, gives you actually a choice between the moon face wheels with the turbo fins and lace wheels. That is also very cool. You have a choice of the 2 different wheels, whereas for the Revell kits, it's one or the other on each kit. So I like the fact that you can do both. You have a choice between the 2 on the NPC. Got to give it to NPC on that one. Now, as far as the Revell goes, on the new one now, you're going to have to chrome them. Whereas these, you can hit them with a little bit of flat coat or semi-gloss coat, and it gives them a really nice aluminum look. And you don't have to bother dechroming them. I've done this quite a few times, and it really looks like actual aluminum. I love the effect. But which saves you a lot of work on having to do all the process and preparing them to chrome them. So a little extra work here, but it's fun anyway. I like doing it. But I got to give NPC credit here for the single piece oil pan, the 2 different choices of rims, you know, all the extra engine bits and pieces for depending on what you want to do with the car. Gotta give it to MPC there. Alright guys, we're getting near the end of this comparison, as we're not going to go over every little individual part. We're just going over the major changes between the groups, between the two. And right now we're going to be looking at the major body components. We're going to be looking at the major differences between the three body components. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the doors. Now the early Revell and the monogram kit, the doors are very similar. There's no molding on them, but here's the door handle, but no keyhole. That's interesting. Probably gonna have to make that. And the door triangle for the mirror, right above the mirror, it's not there, which, if I remember right, was part of the door on these cars. I don't remember 100%. That may be correct on the NPC, may not. That's something we'll have to research. Now, one thing the Revell did, it gave you a notch for mounting the mirror. The NPC, it's your best guess is where it's going. So I hate it when they do that. So I'm gonna have to say that the Revell doors are much nicer than the NPCs. Now let's take a look at the hoods. Here we have the hood on the NPC and on the Revell. Now, while they do have some sink marks in them. Oh, look at that. The Revell is bad. Here, here, here. The Revell's going to need quite a bit of prep work to get this, the original one. It's going to get the original hood looking decent. Now, the monogram has no sink marks, but it's also nowhere near as nicely engraved as the Revell is. Look at that center spine on the Revell, and it's just very dull on the monogram. And then the two creases in the hood here, and then the monogram is just vaguely there. So, sorry, monogram. But the Revell, even with all of the sink marks in it, and wow, this really has a lot of them. Let's take a look at the undersides. Oh, but wait a minute. Look at the underside of the NPC. Way nicer than the Revell. And, oh, look at this. Injection pin marks. Guys, come on. How could you put that there? Now that's going to have to be shaved off. Because those are some heavy injection pin marks. Alright, well, it looks like the Revell takes the better looking hood portion of this from the top, and MPT takes it from the bottom. Now let's see how much better the new hood is compared to the old one. Now the new hood, this is new tooling compared to the old one, and the new one is, oh, look at that, it's 100% better. Now, one thing I noticed right away is that the creases in the hood are much softer in the new one than they are in the original model. But there are no sink marks in the new hood. And of course you had all the extra added grills for the later model car. So the newer hood, much nicer than the original. So now let's do a comparison of the doors. The doors look very similar, really nicely engraved. You can see the molding in the door here, befitting the later car. And this one has the rocker panel extension engraved in it. There and there, you can see that, which is the difference in the doors on the bottom. So the doors are very nice, bit more flash on the newer one than on the old one, which is kind of odd. And let's see what we have here on this tree. What else is different? Well, we have our headlight covers, we have our headlight bezels, and here we have our fender scoops and our moon covers here, which were eliminated from this tree. We have this lower panel here, which has been removed from the new tree. And here we have our rear bumpers. Now they are pretty much the same. Slightly differently engraved. As I think there must be, the entire aero kit must be on separate parts in this car, because everything seems to be a little deeper here, almost as if you're going to put something over it. So that'll be interesting to see. The front bumpers, of course, are going to be very different, as the two model years gave you two completely different front ends. And this one actually has the Firebird emblem engraved in it, which that ought to be fun to do with the bare metal foil the way I did on the Fieros I built. And this also has an extension here, which is probably going to take the air dam from the new aero package. So all the differences between the old and new are depicting the two different model years. So they really put a little effort into bringing the car up to the correct styling for the later years. Good job for Revell. Okay guys, as I was going through the box and the NPC, I found this hood, which is their little cowl induction hood. Pretty cool that they included that, so that you can put a little more flair to your Firebird. Pretty nice deal on that. With all the detailing underneath. Oh, this may be what's going on in the car. As my 1983 Firebird, I did have one, had this exact same hood on it. And I did have an 83 Trans Am, which may be the one I'm building with this one. Alright, this is very cool. Okay guys, we're winding down this video, and I wanted to end it with a look at the newly tooled parts for the 87 GTA. Now, I was wondering about the rocker panels and all the pieces that comprise the aero kit, and here they are. They're all on their own tree. Here we have the rear bumper aero, the front bumper aero, the wraparound wing, the rocker panel extensions. So it is very cool that you get the entire aero kit for the newer cars, and then you get these mirrors, which I don't really understand why, because these mirrors did not come on the car. And I could swear that I saw the regular style mirrors in here somewhere. So I don't know what these flat mirrors are all about, but it's very cool that you get all of these parts here to build the exact 87 Trans Am, or GTA. Basically the same car, but you know, different letters. So that's very cool. Just to give you guys a look at all the new fresh parts for this reissued kit. So there you go guys, that's a brief look at the 3 different kits of the 1/16th scale Pontiac Firebird GTA and Firebird SE from Revell and from MPC. Pretty cool comparison, pretty cool look at some of this automotive history here on these two, and the reissued version of this with all the new tooling that they've included to modify the original build to make it the newer version of the car. It's going to be cool. We're going to take a much closer look at this, the instructions, more of what's different and what's the same as we go into this build, and that's going to be coming up at some point this year on the channel as soon as I get a chance. It should be really cool to build these 3 together, especially since I'm going to have to do some major repair work here, and hopefully I can get this all lined up straight. I'm going to have to do a bit of repair work on this one too, but not as much as the other one. So I'm just hoping that I can really get all of this to square away so that we can build 3 really cool versions of this car. Alright guys, that's going to be it for this little double take, triple take. It's more than 2. And remember, like, subscribe. There's going to be more cool stuff like this coming up on the channel, where we'll be looking at a whole bunch of vintage kits and their reissues and old stuff, new stuff. It's going to be a lot of fun. So anyway, I will see you on the next one.